Hello, myEcon associates. This is Ivy, and we are ready to go to work. Today, we're talking about the W-4, how to actually fill out the W-4. Sometimes people ask me, well, Ivy, how do I know I should fill out my W-4 or what should I do? Well, let me give you a couple hints. If you're getting a refund, that means that too much money is being taken out of your check for taxes, so you should adjust your W-4 because you can get more cash and use that cash throughout the year. If you owe quite a bit in taxes every year, you should still adjust your W-4 because now you want to adjust it so you don't owe money at the end of the year. So adjusting the W-4 can be very beneficial to a large percentage of the people. As a matter of fact, the IRS says over 101 million people, about 80% of all employees, have their withholding tax forms, the W-4, filled out incorrectly. And then, of course, many states also have a state withholding tax form. I'm simply going to talk about the W-4 today because the form is fairly easy. If you sit down, you read the form, you can fill it out. And if not, ask your tax preparer or someone else to help you. But just read the form. So I'm going to go over a couple things very quickly. The first thing I'd like to read, though, is the very top of the W-4 where it says purpose. Complete Form W-4 so that your employer can withhold the correct federal income tax from your pay. Consider completing a new Form W-4 each year and when your personal or financial situation changes. So that's why we should be filling out the W-4, because the form says so, the IRS says so. So let's get started. We've got the front side, which is basically lines A through H. Very simple, very straightforward. Just read them and fill them out. A says enter one for yourself if no one else can claim you on your tax form. Well, you know if you're being claimed on someone else's tax form or not. So that's real simple. If you're not being claimed, just put 1 by the letter A. B, enter 1 if you're single and have only one job, you're married, have one job, and your spouse does not work. So you'd put another one on B. Or the third situation is your wages from a second job or your spouse's wages or the total of both are $1,500 or less. So if that situation applies, then you'd put a 1 on B. C, enter 1 for your spouse, okay? So if you're married, you can put another 1, but the form also says, but you may choose to enter 0. If you enter 0, then that means that your employer is going to withhold more from your taxes. So you might want to put 1 so you can have your cash flow and be able to work with it throughout the year. D, enter number of dependents other than your spouse or yourself. Very straightforward. You know how many dependents you have. E, enter 1 if you will be filed head of household. Now, head of household is simply talking about whether you're taking care of, you have dependents in your household. So if you're a single parent and you're taking care of children, or you're taking care of an elderly person and you're providing all of their living expenses and they make less than $3,800 a year, that person can also be your dependent and make you head of household. G, child tax credit. If your total income will be less than $65,000, that's if you're single, $95,000 if you're married, enter 2 for each eligible child. So you read that and you fit the criteria, you simply put another exemption or allowance on line 2 or 2, whichever one it tells you to do. So line H is simply adding lines A through G, whatever the number is, so it's your individual number. Now we're going to read some additional information that can make even more changes to your W-4 that can help you get more money put back into your paycheck or have more money taken out so you don't owe taxes at the end of the year. So let's go to the first bullet point below line H. It says, if you plan to itemize or claim adjustments to income and want to reduce your withholding taxes, see deductions and adjustments worksheet on page 2. So let's go to page 2 very quickly. Now, on page 2, line 1, it says, enter an estimate of your 2013 itemized deductions. These include qualifying home mortgage interest, charitable contributions, state and local taxes, medical expenses in excess of 10% of your income, or 7.5% if you were born before 1949, and miscellaneous deductions. So you want to take your itemized deductions and you want to put that total on line 1. If you don't know what that number is, you can go to your tax form that your tax preparer filled out last year, line 40 on the 1040, and it will tell you the number. Here's what it's all about. The government gives every tax filer a standard deduction. In other words, they exempt X amount of dollars from your paycheck. For last year, if you are married, filing joint, that was $11,900. If you're single, it was half that amount, $5,950. If you were head of household, then it was $8,700, which of course is 1.5 times the single exemption, okay? So it's very logical. Now, they exempt that amount from your taxes based on certain deductions. But the government says that if your actual deductions are greater based on the things that they say you can deduct, then you can fill out a form, Schedule A, and use that actual number. So I have attached on section 1, page 7, I believe. Yep, it's page 7, an itemized deductions form, the Schedule A. You can fill it out or look on your tax form from last year that your tax preparer filled out for you, and you can see the information. It's got all those categories that I named. So the bottom line is you go back to the second page of the W-4, line 1. If you filed standard last year, okay, which only about 10% of the people file the itemized deduction. So if you were a standard filer, you would skip lines 1, 2, and 3, okay? But if you filed itemized deductions, and so you filed the actual deductions on Schedule A, then you want to fill out lines 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to give you an example of someone filling out lines 1, 2, and 3. Line 1. So it says enter an estimate of your 2013 itemized deductions, okay? So we're going to put $18,200 on line 1. Remember, the standard amount would be $12,200. That's for 2014, because we're always talking about the coming year. It's an estimate for the future year, okay? So we said $18,200. Line 2 says fill in the standard amount. Well, the standard amount is $12,200. That's line 2. Line 3 says subtract 2 from 1. So obviously 12,200 from 18,200 is leaving $6,000 on line 3. Now, everybody can use line 4. Line 4 says enter an estimate of your 2013 adjustments to income and any additional standard deduction. Now, the adjustments to income is going to cover things on your W-4 that were not covered on the front side. We're talking about things like student loan interest. We're talking alimony payments. We're talking, as a matter of fact, I have attached a 1040, lines 23 through 36. It's on this section we're doing, section 1, page 6, okay? So you can see lines 23 through 36, it's got things that are listed there. You can also be talking about things like IRA deductions or simples or SEPs. These are tax deductible investments for people that are self-employed, okay? Because your employer would have no way of knowing that you were putting away money for retirement outside of your job. So all of these things are possible. Rather than try to educate someone on all of the possibilities that can go on line 4 on the second page of the W-4, what I do is say just put $4,000, okay? Once they're in the business, once they know what they're doing, once they're looking at their finances more in details, then they can go back and adjust it to whatever they want it to be, because each $3,900 of deductions equals one more allowance. So basically, I'm allowing them to get one more allowance, okay? So we put $4,000 on line 4. Line 5 says add line 3 and 4. Well, obviously, if line 3 was $6,000, we gave them an additional $4,000 on line 4. So now on line 5, we've got $10,000. Okay? Line 6 says enter an estimate of your 2013 non-wage income. We're talking income from things like investments, okay? So most people have very little of that. If you have some of that, put the actual number. If you have money in a tax-deductible IRA or 401k, that wouldn't qualify because that money is not taxable. So we'll put 0 on line 6. Line 7 says subtract 6 from 5. So if 5 was 10,000, 6 was 0, then 7 is also going to be $10,000, okay? Line 8 says divide the amount on line 7 by $3,900 and drop the decimal. So line 7 was 10,000, line 8. So we're going to divide the 10,000 by 3,900. We got 2 point something. We'll drop the decimal. So we picked up 2 more exemptions or 2 more allowances on line 8. Okay? So once you work with it a little bit, it becomes pretty straightforward, even though it's a tongue twister when you're first doing it. Okay? Line 9 says enter the number from the personal allowances worksheet on line H from the front side of the W-4. So just go back and get whatever number you had on the front side for H, where we added up lines A through G, okay? So we're just using this example 5 on line 9. Line 10 says add 8 and 9. So we had 2 on 8, we had 5 on 9, so that gives us 7 on 10. Then you want to put that on the front side of your W-4, okay? And of course, that goes on line 5. Fill out the personal information, turn it into your HR department, and your W-4 is changed. And then you just want to remember, the objective is to not owe the IRS at the end of the year and not have the IRS owe you. The great situation is if you're one of those people that's had your W-4 filled out incorrectly for quite some time now, when you adjust your W-4, you're going to get some cash, and you can use that cash to start helping you build personal financial success. You can use that by paying off debt or by funding your retirement account. Or maybe you just need the money for your lifestyle right now. Either way, it's your money. Fill out your W-4, and I wish you the best.